Okay, I think we might actually be live. Everything says I'm live. Uh, If anybody wants to let me know that they can hear me on this wonderfully low budget set that I have. Awesome. That is good to know. Well, you guys can't see him. Zeke is just out of sight line here, but once he hears people talking, he gets very, very excited and wants to be around. But Zeke the Wonder Dog is here. Um, uh, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Jay Hartman. I am uh, a veteran of the book wars and the publishing industry. Been around for quite some time. Used to have a show with another publisher, along with Sandra Murphy. A different live show talking about the publishing industry. But we are off on our own doing a new thing. And for those of you that might remember the old live show, you guys might remember Gizmo, Gizmo the guinea pig, that was our third co-host, if you will. Um, Sadly, behind me there on the shelf, that is Gizmo. Um, Giz lost his battle to cancer back in December, and Zeke is not a replacement, but he is the latest member of our team to join the family, um, and we're very very glad to have him here. Um, I kind of want to take a moment to catch everybody up because those of you that have followed the show in the past and have followed me, I've gotten a lot of emails that have basically said, "Well, what the hell is going on? Where are you? What are you doing? Why aren't you doing more of this? Why aren't you doing more of that?" And could you do a little bit more of this? Uh, I don't know about the rest of you, but I've had the shittiest year. Um, there's just no two ways about it. And fortunately, I don't have to worry about using curse words on my own show. So I can be as honest with that as I want to be. Um, it has not been a good year. It did start out sort of the early part of last year. I did finally get my autism diagnosis, which was a great relief. It helped explain a lot of things that go on in my life and how I interact with it. So that was all good, and I was very happy to be able to find some new workarounds in my life and some new ways of dealing things as a result of that. But then came the fall, which is so I was the editor in chief of another publishing house for a period of 13 years. I actually created that publishing house um, in conjunction with a business partner. Um, I was never a majority shareholder in that company. A lot of people, because they saw me, thought I was the face of the business, and thought therefore that meant that I must be in charge and have control of it. And I actually didn't. We had some investors that owned part of it, and I owned a small share of basically the other 50%. My business partner uh, had debt in her name through the business. Um, she wanted out. I was not in a position to be able to buy out her share of the company. So as a result, she chose to sell the company uh, to a patent attorney from Texas. Uh, I was asked, actually, I wasn't asked, I was required as a piece of the business to stay on for a period of time. That was a requirement of the sale. So I basically became an employee in my own company. Um, and as an independent contractor, when you've been running the company for 13 years and it's all your ideas and everything behind the scenes, um, letting somebody else take over and take control of that, especially when your vision doesn't match their vision, um, is extremely difficult. And I've always been of the idea that if the part of the equation that's not working is me, then I should probably take myself out of the equation. And so I made that decision back in April, to when my independent contractor agreement was up for renewal. I made the decision not to renew it because I did not see a place for me in what the company had become. Um, and I was kind of already out anyway. I did not receive anything from the sale of the company. The decision was made to pay back investors first. So there were a lot of rumors floating around that I did really well and that I made a bunch of money, and that's why I went off and disappeared for 5 months. But the fact of the matter was I didn't actually get a dime. And the last 5 months I've been back at Las Vegas Airport working my old retail management job. And then in addition to uh, all of that, I did have a non-compete that said that I was basically not allowed to do anything in the publishing industry whatsoever, other than publish my own works and edit. I could edit for other people. So the Jay Hartman agency got spun off from what had been my notary job and my wedding uh, officiating job. I turned it into a little bit more of a consulting job in the meantime. So yeah, it was a really horrible transition to go from 13 years of your life, you know, being in control and running the company and taking care of your authors and you know, trying to hold up the ideals that you had for the publishing house, um, and then just, you know, losing everything, um, and like literally everything. So I don't have any ill will. You know, when you leave a company, the company goes on without you. It's just the nature of the beast. Um, I am sure they will be successful at whatever they choose to do in the future without me. I did make several offers for what I would be willing to stay on and continue to do, but they just felt that that was not going to work out. So effort was made, and I just felt really bad for leaving my authors behind, because you know I'd always promised them that I'd be there for them, and uh, they were my family, and it was really tough. It was really tough. I'm not gonna lie. You know, it was a deep depression, and then you know on top of that, Gizmo dies, and Gizmo dies almost on Christmas Eve, and uh, yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. Um, and by April, I was at one of the lowest points of my life. And then a couple weeks later, we met Zeke, Zeke the Wonder Dog. You guys will get to see him eventually. He's curled up at my feet at the moment. Zeke is a rescue from the Nevada SPCA. He is a combination of Labrador and Rottweiler. Um, Physically, he looks a lot like a Rottweiler. Personality wise, 100% Lab. Um, all he wants to do is love and love everybody, and get tons of love. So, more than happy to do that. So, I had to think about what I wanted to do next, and I had always really enjoyed uh, the show that Sandy and I had done. Um, you know, Sandy and I have been vast friends for many years, and I really enjoyed the time she and I had putting together the live shows that we used to do for the other publisher. And um, I talked to her about it and said, "Well, hey, what do you think about reviving the show? And you come back and you be my co-host, and we'll bring Zeke in to be the new face." And she thought that was a great idea. The publishing game is actually inspired by my dad. So my dad, Gary Becker, back in the '80s, was working in education in Florida and uh, developed really. I mean, people didn't talk about side hustles really back then, but Dad had what would be considered a side hustle of um, teaching people about copyright law and helping people get educated about copyright law. And his whole program was called the Copyright Game. Um, and when I got to thinking about uh, what I wanted to do for the YouTube channel and starting a new show, the publishing game just seemed to make a whole lot of sense. Um, it is a game that you have to learn to navigate, and there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I think education, regardless of what role you play in the publishing world, education is the best thing. And as an author, forewarned is forearmed, and I want to make sure that everybody has as much access to knowledge as they possibly can. I've been in publishing now, both on the retail and the publishing side, for well over 30 years. I've kind of seen it all and done it all, and thought, you know what, it would be fun to be able to go ahead and start up a channel that really talks about the ins and outs of publishing, takes people behind the scenes of what's going on in the publishing world, interviews with authors and agents and cover designers and all the different moving parts and movers and shakers out there that are making a difference in the publishing world. Um, I think things tend to get really focused on looking at just an author or just a publisher, and just like when you go to watch a movie or a television show, there's so many other moving parts, and so many other people that are involved in the process that uh, are unsung heroes. And part of the goal of the publishing game is to shine a light on those people that are rarely get the recognition they should in publishing. But we also have things lined up for going to conventions and being able to do interviews there on the fly with people, taking you behind the scenes of some of the biggest conventions that happen around the country. We have game show episodes coming up. Uh, we've already got plans for a match game episode evening and a Hollywood Squares evening, all hosted with various authors on our panels. So that's going to be a whole lot of fun. There is a readathon coming in 2024. It's going to be a 24-hour readathon to raise money for a literary charity. So authors taking turns reading all night long, 24 hours straight, from their works and other works, in a good effort to raise money for charity. There are a so the overarching company here is Misty Media, and Misty Media takes its name from El Misty, the volcano in near Arequipa, Peru. My husband is from Peru. He's from Lima, and I'm very much inspired by that whole world down there and everything that goes on. And uh, you know, the idea of the Misty being a volcano that sort of rained down destruction and destroyed one world, but then made the soil perfect for a whole other uh, world to kind of come back from that seemed like the perfect metaphor for what I've gone through over the last year. So Misty Media is sort of that emergence from the volcanic ash of something new and something creative. There are a lot of arms to Misty Media. There's a lot of things we'll be doing. So in addition to the YouTube channel, there is a podcast in the works. We have in-person events. We will be sponsoring open mic in several cities across the country. Um, a lot of those fell by the wayside during COVID. We're actually reaching out to various coffee shops and other places around the country, looking to sponsor new open mic nights for people to be able to go out and read their writing out there, get an audience. We're also working with writers groups across the country to see what we can do about a little bit more exposure for everybody. So again, it's a pretty massive. Misty Media is one entity, and then under that, of course, is here we are at the publishing game, which is the YouTube part of it. And as time goes on, you'll see even more stuff pop up, both on our channel here and as our social media emerges everywhere else. It just gives me a chance to approach publishing from a whole new angle, and really get to explore a lot of the things that I've always wanted to do, and that originally were lined up with the old show. that we never really got the opportunity to do. Um, I did want to talk briefly tonight. I always try to bring one topic that is kind of uh, in the news and being covered, and there's a lot of talk going on right now about novellas, and it's kind of surprising in a way because short form fiction, um, people tend to say, okay, everything is either a short story or uh, or it's a novel, and they forget that there are all these in between things along the way. So, short stories, novelettes, novellas. There's even a few that people have made up that are in between there. But there's some interesting studies that are coming out from some universities back east, which is the appetite has really grown for novella length for a variety of reasons. One is that the attention span that has played into the TikTok crowd, um, the that sort of fast social media interaction where we want to be able to digest our entertainment in smaller bites, but not too small of bites. So think of it as being able to sit down and binge Stranger Things, a whole season of Stranger Things over the course of a weekend. It's one thing if you're binging a sitcom at 30 minutes, but if you're binging an hour drama, then you know that takes a different type of commitment. And what the research is finding is that people are moving away from the full length novel because it's taking more time and more investment of people's energy to dedicate themselves to starting and finishing a full length work. And a short story, in a lot of cases, has proven to be sort of too short. People want to be a little bit more engaged with the material, and don't necessarily want it to be over so quickly. The other big thing that's affecting this is the cost of printing. So when we're looking at hardcovers and paperbacks that are being released, and some of the obscene pricing that's going on right now, with all the price hikes due to cost of paper pulp, and things like that, what we're discovering is that people don't really want to pay these high prices for a full length work. What's interesting is that if you're looking at Ingram or Amazon and their printing charges, a novella at, let's say, even at the high end at 40,000 words, is still coming in as a fairly short paperback, but not so short that people feel like they aren't getting their money's worth. So, what you're getting is this great opportunity for readers who, on the ebook side of things, want to read it, but maybe want to read a longer story that, you know, okay, there's nothing on television tonight, so I'm reading the novella and I finish it in a few hours. But you've also got all those people who are print fans who are uh, saying, you know what, I don't want to tote around some big heavy paperback or some big heavy hardcover, but I'd still like to be able to take something that I could, on vacation that's fairly easy to pack and sit by the pool and read. And more and more novellas are taking that particular sweet spot of the retail pie. Um, all of the big publishers have sort of dipped their toe now into this type of fiction. It has been primarily fiction. It just doesn't that experiments into nonfiction in the same type of length have not been successful from the publisher standpoint, but uh, fiction absolutely has been really growing by leaps and bounds in novella format, particularly in print. Again, it's keeping the cost down for those novels or novellas, so people aren't having to pay as maybe half the price of what they're having to normally pay for a hardcover or a paperback. Makes investing in print books a lot more affordable when everything is on the climb. As usual, it's the same categories that are driving it as you normally see in fiction these days. Number one is still romance, driving the sales, usually followed by mystery, and then usually followed at a little bit further distance with science fiction and fantasy. Um, Romance still reigns supreme, though, for pretty much any genre. of sales. But in this new novella, um, it's we're seeing the same thing. It's Sherry asked, does this go across all genres, or are some genres more interested in novellas? Romance is still that thing that uh, people, they are voracious readers, and romance readers typically read on average 3 times more of the number of books per year than other genre readers. And actually, they'll read up to 2 to 3 times more per week than other genre readers. So when you've got folks that are devouring material and they're looking for the most affordable way to do it, the novella has been a really great way to sort of bridge that gap of giving them a longer story to enjoy, but not so long that they've got to invest a ton of time and energy into it to get through it. So lots of appeal there. I do know quite a few fantasy authors who are doing a little bit more serialized fiction in the novella length, which also makes a lot of sense. Maybe you've written a very long fantasy novels tend to run really long, and then trying to figure out where to split them always becomes a challenge. So when you've got the novella length to work with, it's a far easier to be able to take a book and split it up into segments that make sense to accomplish the same goal. So, like I said, I've seen quite a bit of that in fantasy and romance. Not as strong in mystery. I will say also that regular traditional fiction, so literary fiction, is another hot candidate for it. Because again, it's that ability to completely tell a story from beginning to end, but in 40,000 words instead of, uh, a full length novel that people don't necessarily have time to get into. Um, I highly recommend that folks kind of look around their public library and do a little bit of snooping online to see what's going on out there with novellas. The market share has grown by roughly 3 to 5% in sales over the last 3 to 6 months. That may not sound like a lot, but considering that overall the print industry is down and novellas are up, anytime you've got something that's trending up in an otherwise down market, that's something that needs to be watched. So I am here predicting that novellas will be the next big thing as we get into the holiday season. If you are working with series, now's a great time to take that extended story you were going to do featuring your characters. And if you've got a full length novel with those folks coming out, it used to be the short story was that filler. Like, oh, hey, let's give them a free short story. Well, free's not a business model. And we'll be talking about that in future episodes. Believe you me, that's a hot button topic with me. But where in the past people have said, let's do let me write a short story and make that available at the same time. Now it's sort of that exploration of a little bit longer, a little bit wider part of your world when you're releasing a novel to be able to take your reader into a little bit more of a journey by going novella. Not planning on seeing that change. You're not planning on seeing suddenly collections of novellas come together because it sort of defeats the purpose. The idea here is that the novella is a standalone replacement for full-length books, and it's just another great way to be able to tell a story for another complete audience. So highly recommend getting out there and looking at all the data shows this is what authors should be looking at right now. And if it's in your repertoire, if it's in your tool bag that you feel comfortable writing novellas, everything's pointing to this is where you should be going. Particularly if you're following the death bells of Amazon and KDP. Those of you that have followed my show for a long time, I have been trying to warn everybody for well over a year that KDP is imploding and is not long for this world. We're even closer now to that that death clock of striking midnight. So jumping on the novella thing now, where you can get those more easily produced through Ingram before KDP vanishes, is going to be really, really critical to building up your catalog of what you have available. So that kind of leads me to the last thing for the evening. See, when I lost the company, in addition to no money and a non-compete, I had that non-compete that basically said I couldn't do anything in the industry other than publish my own stuff or edit other people. Well, the non-compete has expired. And I have had a lot of people say to me, well, if and when your non-compete expires, would you ever consider starting up publishing again? Yes. Not only is the answer yes, the answer is yes, and it's happening today. I'm very pleased to announce I have returned to publishing. Misty Media is the top level of the publishing empire, and underneath that we have all new imprints. So White City Press is taking its name from the city of Arequipa in Lima, just outside Lima, Peru. They're at the foot of the Misty. It's called the White City because it's made of all white stone, and it is truly gleaming white during the day. But it is a city that's very mysterious and very, very aged. And so White City Press is our new mystery imprint. Miraflores Nights. Miraflores is the tourist area of Lima where at night kind of anything goes, and it's where all the nightclubs are, and it's dark and it's mysterious, and it's you don't know what people get up to in the shadows. So Miraflores Nights will be our brand new romance and erotica imprint. Then we have, of course, the Nazca lines in southern Peru are some of the most sought after pictures, and people really have not known how the Nazca lines ever came to be made. And there's been speculation from aliens to, advanced technology. So Nazca Press is our new science fiction, fantasy, and horror line. Luis's dad, Luis, for those of you that don't know, is my husband. He is from Peru. His father, Regne, from the time I first met him, saw my love for the history of Peru, especially when it came to art and antiques and that sort of thing. So in his honor, Don Regne Press is going to be our new nonfiction imprint, covering pretty much just about everything having to do with nonfiction. Sandy, I feel like I've left something out. Nazca Press, Miraflores Nights, White City Press. Oh, Picarones. So I was explaining this to author Kay George the other day. Picarones are a type of Peruvian donut to which both myself and my waistline are extremely addicted. So Picarones Press is our new children's young adult line. So everything kind of has a Peruvian influence there, but it kind of makes sense for where I'm at with my life. The company will be very much run with the same ideals that I have had in place for 13 years on how authors should be treated, and anybody that's worked with me over the last decade knows that I take it very seriously. I take my authors very seriously. Um, and I have a non-poaching requirement in the sale of the business that says I'm not allowed to go after uh, any of the authors that I worked with in the past. Doesn't stop anybody from coming to me if they want to work with me. So uh, if you've ever worked with me and you ever want to work with me again, please know that door is always open. Um, we are open to submissions as of today. So submissions, if you've worked with me before, you'll be able to email me directly, uh, Jay Hartman, JHARTMAN, at mistymedia.com. If you haven't worked with me before, then it's just submissions at mistymedia.com. Um, we're gonna actually, Zeke is right here. Let's see if I can get him. There he is. Hi, Zeke. You're a good boy. Um, our website will be up and running very, very shortly. We're just putting the final touches on it. Um, I cannot say at this time how many books a year we'll publish. Um, we, I'm on my own, so this is all on me. My financing, no partners, no investors, and I like it that way. I'll be publishing things as I'm able. Our very first release will be out in approximately 2 weeks. It's called the Perp War Pumpkin, a charity. It's a charity anthology to benefit Second Harvest Food Bank. Um, I have always wanted to do a charity anthology, and was not able to under, the confines of the other business. So uh, I'm very, very excited that we're going to be able to do this charity anthology. 100% of the net proceeds from the sale of both the ebook and the paperback of Perp will be distributed evenly between the authors' local Second Harvest food banks. In the event that an author doesn't have a second harvest, we'll roll those funds straight up to the corporate for them to disperse how they see best. And you'll be seeing a lot in the channel and in social media here over the next couple weeks regarding Perp, because it's just a very, very important. It's important to raise money for Second Harvest, particularly as we get in the holiday season, and more and more people are going to be in desperate need of food, and these folks are really doing some amazing work. Um, because things have been so busy with getting all the imprints together, production took a different scheduling tact, but we do still have I Just Died in Your Arms, crime fiction celebrating one hit wonders. That is still forthcoming. It is still slated for October. Our goal is to make it for October. There is a possibility it'll push to November, but right now, that is the goal, is to still have it out in October. Likely those will be our only two releases for 2023, so that we can really put our efforts behind those two books, particularly Perp, so we could do right by Second Harvest for the holiday season. Um, there are some anthologies that in the past had originally been lined up for approval, and then new management came in and canceled those anthologies. I was given permission to still work with those anthologies, so those of you that might have heard of one that I was working on previously called Sex and Violins, which was a mystery meets erotica anthology, that will be released under Miraflores Nights. Sandy is going to be taking up the mantle of getting that one put together, so do be on the lookout for that in the early part of 2024. We also have another anthology. This one's an invitation only. We're looking at that one for February, released somewhere on February or March. It's called Gag Me with a Spoon, humorous crime fiction inspired by the songs of the 80s. So that one is scheduled for, I'd probably say late winter, early spring. And then from there, we're going to just see where the road takes us. We'll see what comes through the doors. We'll see what um, what people are interested in, and I'm not in a rush to make the company huge. I'm not in a rush to get rich. I want to be able to go back to having the passion of doing developmental edits with my authors and really enjoying the process. And just doing, always remembering to always do right by the author, and always sticking to that. That is just, it's my mantra. It always has been. I always want to do right by the people that I publish. And if it means that I have to go at a slower pace to ensure that uh, my authors are taken care of properly and they're properly promoted and they have their input into covers and the promotional aspects, um, maintaining those partnerships that I've always had over the last decade with my authors. I don't want any of that to change. And if anything, there should be less reason for it to change um, now that it's mine, and I don't have to answer anybody, and I don't have to worry about anybody taking anything away from me, because now it's mine. Um, uh, we do have some authors that have contacted me through the grapevine about uh, anthologies that they're part of through other publishers that are interested in relocating to Misty. Again, I'm just being very careful with that right now and saying that, I'm certainly open to stuff that's coming from other houses, but just want people to be really clear that I am not going to approach an author and say, I hear you're with so and so. I'd like to steal you and have you. It's just not the way I do business. It's it. I've always said that independent publishing is very slutty. Authors do tend to sleep around with a lot of houses, and I think that's great. I think different houses specialize in different things and different experiences for authors, and I don't think there's anything wrong whatsoever with authors having the opportunity to have one book come out with this publisher and one book come out with that publisher. And um, in the independent press world, I think it's also critical that those indie presses work together when they share an author, and maybe it's a matter of putting sample chapters from each other's books in the back or something. But there's enough room at the table for everybody. Um, there's enough. There's enough there that it's not a competition. Um, it should be about focusing on what's important to you. And to me, it will always be the passion I have for my authors and their craft, and watching them be successful, and having a hand in that. Um, it just means everything to me. So I knew I couldn't stay away from publishing, but it's definitely going to be a bit of a different approach that maybe not everybody else that works in the industry would agree with my approach, but they don't have to. Um, the authors that work with me, you know what? If it matches what they're looking for, great. If it doesn't match what they're looking for, there's no hard feelings. But Misty Media will be what it will be, and but nothing. It's still worldwide distribution. It is still in getting in every single retail door, ebook door that possibly can. It is still all about everything I've ever done for my authors. Nothing of that is changing. It's just that the speed at which things may grow um, may be significantly slower, and I'm okay with that. It took me 13 years to get the last publishing house to where it was. I'm still young enough that if I got to start over and do 13 more years to start something fresh, then that's what we'll do. And I just hope everybody will come along for the ride, because a lot of it will play out right here on the publishing game. Because the publishing game is going to take you behind the scenes of Misty Media, and show you how we're doing what we're doing. Um, so it's exciting stuff, and it's also a little overwhelming. Um, I should add also that, at this point, our YouTube channel is not monetized. So if people would be so kind as to like and subscribe and encourage others to do that, so that at some point we can reach reach a state that we can be monetized, that will always help things. Plus, it helps the algorithm show this to other places. Sandy's asking, is there ideas for single short stories? The answer is yes. Um, I kind of feel like some of our thunder got stolen because we couldn't make the announcement before Michael Bracken uh, made his announcement about the new short story initiative over at Level Best, who I love, by the way, guys. I mean, uh, if you haven't checked into Level Best, there's some terrific people over there. I love everything they do over there. But yes, we will. I have an idea on how to make short stories work again. And I am actively looking for novellas, uh, very actively looking for novellas, and a little bit longer, shorter fiction, if that makes sense. The other thing that's extremely important to me is I have been selected to be on the committee for the Independent Book Publishers Association on their committee for diversity, equity, and inclusion. I am on a panel at the moment that is in charge of redoing their annual awards so that it is more aligned with diversity initiatives. Now more than ever, uh, Misty Media is going to be a place where DEI is extremely important. We have somebody at the top who is a neurodivergent gay lapsed Jew. So I tick enough boxes just on my own. Um, but having that representation is really really important to me. It's going to be a cornerstone of Misty Media and everything that we do. Making sure that those voices that are often marginalized are getting the opportunity to be heard and be seen. So we're going to be very very actively looking for folks that either write characters who are these uh, are diverse, or the authors themselves. We're looking for diversity from them as well. So looks like we are at the 41-minute mark. So I am going to go ahead and call this for the evening. I think it's a lot. um, it's there's a lot more coming. So please do subscribe. Set the bell. If you click the bell, you'll get notified every time a new video gets uploaded. We have stay tuned for a lot of our short form stuff coming, which is typically the publishing tip of the day, which will be I think those are launching week after next, and they'll typically be every other day at first, and then we'll see how folks like them, and if that works, that's great. If there are any questions though, I do want to allow a little bit of time. I don't want to keep everybody hostage because then everybody sits and watches the videos and I'm like, oh my god, I just want to go like play Missile Command. But if there is anybody that has any questions uh, about the publishing game, about novellas, about what's coming from Misty Media, more than happy to answer them. Looking at the chat. This is the part where all of you look at your feet and you look at each other and you're like, well, I don't want to be the one to ask the question. Well, I don't want to be. Will you be sending out ARCs? Yes. We will definitely be doing ARCs. Um, uh, for the most part, they will be digital ARCs, and most places nowadays prefer that. Um, I'll also be doing more through, and of course the name of the company completely escapes me at the moment. But it's that vast company that you can upload your novel and all the reviewers are on there, and you can get the advanced reviews. I don't know why I'm blanking on the name of it, but I'm sure you guys know who I'm talking about. Um, what genres are you looking for in novellas? At this point, probably primarily romance and mystery. Um, Thank you, Barb. Yes, Death Galley. Um, it was in that head somewhere. Um, uh, yeah, for novellas, probably romance, mystery, western, and horror also. And I would love to be doing a lot more with dark horror. Not so much dark fantasy, but definitely dark horror. It's a passion kind of thing of mine that I've never got to really explore with my previous publishing house. So would love to see, and not only that, but honestly, the horror writers of America are some of the nicest people, um, and some of the kindest people. And it's one of those things where, like, if I can do something that in some way benefits them, I would absolutely want to, just because the amount they give back to authors is huge. So uh, the more opportunities for horror, and maintaining my relationship with Drive Through Fiction will still be important. I've been in touch with them over there. There's a lot that they want to do to work with us directly to feature our titles at Drive Through Fiction. It'll always be our primary source. There is a rumor that we may not release through Amazon. Um, I can neither confirm nor deny for sure at this point if that's going to happen. Um, but Amazon may not be a path for some releases. Uh, so stay tuned for that. It's an experiment, but one that I've been doing a lot of research on, and there are some publishers who have been enormously successful not selling their books on Amazon. So some, especially with Amazon imploding at the moment, and KDP on its deathbed, that might not be the best place to be. Any other questions? No. Okay. Well, thank you, folks, for being here. The first episode of something new is always uh, convoluted and goes longer and doesn't go as smoothly, and it's far less planned. And originally, the whole idea was to actually have all of this recorded, and we would all sort of sit here in the chat tonight and drink margaritas and watch the launch. And as my late grandmother used to say, we make plans and God laughs. So I ended up having to go live, which I wasn't quite prepared for. It makes me very uncomfortable. But having you folks out there really helps a lot, and very much appreciate y'all being there. And if there's anything I can do, by all means, reach out. Let me know. Again, Jay Hartman, JHARTMAN at Misty Media. That's MISTI, mistymedia.com. And we will see all of you hopefully very, very soon. Again, thank you all very much. Take care, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.